Hi, my name's Renata. Welcome to my YouTube channel, which is dedicated to intercultural communication and expat life, job search and business skills across cultures, and foreign language learning. Now, this video falls into the third category, foreign language learning, and it's specifically about the new TOEFL. TOEFL, T-O-E-F-L, Test of English as a Foreign Language. Many of my clients need to or have to or want to take the TOEFL for professional and academic reasons. And you have a choice. There's also IELTS and other tests these days. But if TOEFL is specifically what you're thinking about taking, and you're not sure whether you should take it this year, meaning 2025, or next year, meaning 2026, it's very important to know about the changes that are about to come. TOEFL as it is today until the end of 2025 is significantly different from what it's going to be as of January 2026. So I wanted to make this video to explain the differences. And if you have a choice, if you can take it now or next year, then this is going to be very interesting for you to see which of the two options you might prefer. As always, I'm going to share my screen with you and you'll see me again at the end of this video. So we're going to look at the new TOEFL and we're also going to compare it to the current version. The best information you can get is on the ETS website. ETS, Educational and Testing Services. This is the maker of TOEFL and other tests. If you go to their website, ets.org/TOEFL, that's where you can find all updates about the coming changes. And there's a specific link here. I'm going to try to put it in the description of the video, where you can download this whole PDF that gives you a very good overview of what TOEFL is going to look like as of January 2026. I've read through the overview and I made this short video to briefly explain to you what it looks like and what it's going to be about. So let's start with reading and listening. As you know, TOEFL consists of 4 parts: reading, listening, writing, and speaking. And let's compare it to what TOEFL is like today. Today meaning until the end of 2025. So currently, there is only academic reading, no other types of reading. As you can see, the new TOEFL consists of 3 different things: complete the words, read in daily life, and reading an academic passage. So they keep that part of reading an academic passage, but it's only step 3, and there are 2 new things before you even get to reading an academic passage. So before or currently in 2025 until the end of this year, we still have 2 reading passages, about 700 words each, and there are 10 questions per passage, so there's 20 items you have to complete, and you got about 35 seconds. You can compare that to the box on the left, what the new test as of 2026 is going to look like. As for listening, until now, until the end of 2025, there's only academic listening. They will keep some of this, like listening to a conversation, but it's an on-campus conversation, or listening to an academic talk. They're going to keep those too, but listening to an announcement is going to be new, and also listen and choose a response is completely new. So right now you do 3 lectures and 2 conversations, campus-related conversations. You have 6 questions per lecture and 5 questions per conversation. That's 28 items, and the estimated time is 36 minutes. You can compare that to the new test, as you can see in the box on the left. Also, what is very different is that is multi-stage. The new test will be multi-stage. What does that mean? It means that the first task you complete in reading, which is complete the words, and the first task you complete in listening, which is listen and choose a response, will determine how difficult the next part is that you're going to do. If you do very well in those first 2 tasks, then the next step, which is read in daily life, and for listening, it is listening to a conversation. It will be a higher level of task for you to complete. But if you're not very good at the first task, then the second one will probably be intermediate. And then they see how you do. And depending on that, they will determine what difficulty level they will present in a third and in a fourth step. That's what they call multi-stage. So this is where the test is going to be essentially very, very different from what it's like today. Also, writing and speaking are going to change completely. Well, for writing, not completely, but for speaking, absolutely. So for writing at the moment, until the end of 2025, there's what I call the old integrated task, the classic integrated task where you listen to something, you read something, then you compare. You need to find 3 points to compare. There was a very, very particular structure on how you do that integrated writing task for TOEFL. That's gone. They will get rid of that. And they already changed the independent writing task to something that isn't really an independent, it's more of an integrated writing task, what they call academic discussion. So since 2023, TOEFL writing has been this old integrated writing task and the new academic discussion. So they're going to keep that new academic discussion writing task. They're going to keep that. But they will add 2 new things: build a sentence and write an email. I'll explain that in a bit more detail in this video, so if you want to see what's in each of the 4 parts, hang on and let's keep going. So TOEFL used to be 2 writing tasks, now there are 3, and it used to be 29 minutes, but things happen quite fast with these 3 new writing tasks, so it's only about 23 minutes now. Speaking is completely different. Right now, we have 4 academic speaking tasks. There's 1 independent and 3 integrated speaking tasks. So we have 4 items, and it takes about 16 minutes to do that. You have to read something, read and listen, or listen only, and then there's this peep, and you have 45 or 60 seconds to record your answer. And that's what it's like today, and it's all academic. Now, the new speaking is very different. You will start with listen and repeat. I'll give you an example later what that means. And after listen and repeat, you will take an interview. It's not with a real person. It's a pre-recorded interviewer, but still it's supposed to feel more like a real conversation. So that's very different. And if you have taken the TOEFL before, or if you've been studying for the TOEFL because you were going to take it at some point in 2025, and you really hate that speaking part, ask yourself if you can wait until 2026. I think the new one looks a little more doable, at least to me, but we'll have to wait and see how it turns out and what test takers actually say once they've tried it out. So let me talk about each and every one of the 4 parts in a bit more detail and give you examples. Let's start with reading. So remember, reading will consist of 3 parts: complete the words, read in daily life, and read an academic passage. The first one, complete the words, is new. We haven't had that on TOEFL yet, brand new. What does it look like? Well, I created a text. I took it from an old TOEFL reading passage from, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. So I took an old text and I removed letters from words. So what you have to do is you have to complete the words. It's not an entire word that's missing, but the letters of that word. So it starts with iron came from West Asia, and then a word that starts with AL, but we have to figure out what the word is that starts with AL. And then its roots of diffusion were, and then there's a word with some, but we have to figure out what word it is that starts with some, and then different than those of agriculture, and so on. So you get it. If you want to try your luck, if you want to see if you can figure out what those words are, we only know the first couple of letters, then press pause write it down, and then press play again when you're ready to hear the answers. All right, I guess you pressed play again, or you want to see the answers right away. So here we go. This is what you will have to do. Fill the rest of the word in. So iron came from West Asia, although its roots of diffusion were somewhat different from those of agriculture. Knowledge of iron making penetrated into the forests and savannas of West Africa at roughly the same time that iron making was reaching Europe. Evidence of iron making has been found in Nigeria, Ghana, and Mali. So you would have to choose THOUGH for the first gap, WHAT for the second gap. So everything in the lighter color is what you would have to add in. That's the new reading task. Complete the words. You won't just do one, you'll do a couple of them. And after that, you'll move on to part 2, read and daily life. That is also brand new. The difference is you're not reading an academic text, you're reading a poster, a sign, a notice. Could be a menu in a restaurant or a social media post, anything from a website, a schedule when something happens, an email or a text message conversation, some sort of advertisement, a news article, an online form to fill in, an invoice or a receipt, and anything that is not an academic text. And then you'll have your usual multiple choice questions. So this may seem similar to what TOEFL was like before or currently is until the end of 2025. It's just that the type of text is different. Type of questions, maybe not so much, but the type of text is different. And after that, you'll have to read an academic passage, and that's absolutely identical to the current TOEFL, and you'll be answering the usual multiple choice questions. So the only one that remains the same is the third part, read an academic passage, whereas part 1 and 2, complete the words and read in daily life, will be new. Moving on to listening. Listening will consist of 4 parts. Part 1 is listen and choose a response. That's brand new. And this is what it looks like. So, for example, somebody will say, would you mind sharing your notes from yesterday's lecture with me? And then you're presented with 4 possible answers. Again, if you want to guess, press pause, think about it, and then press play again for me to let you know what the answer is. Okay, so would you mind sharing your notes from yesterday's lecture with me? The only possible answer is no, no problem. Why? Well, that and many other questions we can discuss during our lessons if you decide to work with me as a TOEFL teacher, as a test prep coach. This and many others. We have a couple of sample lessons already available that ETS has available for download on the website, so we can practice and prepare if taking the test in 2026 is something you're considering. So after this first new part, you're going to do listen to conversation. It is kind of considered new, even though there might have been conversations of the same kind before, but they were always campus related. But now you can have any type of conversation. It doesn't necessarily have to be campus related anymore. So you just listen to the conversation and you'll have the usual multiple choice questions to answer. Then the same with announcements. That's definitely different. The old TOEFL never had announcements, but it's the same thing. You listen to the announcement and then you answer the multiple choice questions. The only thing that is the same is listening to an academic talk as before, just like you do during the current TOEFL with the usual type of multiple choice questions. Let's move on to writing. In writing, it starts with build a sentence. That is brand new. TOEFL has never had that before. Here's an example. This is how the sentence starts. Then we have 6 gaps and it ends with the word amazing. And then we have 7 elements that could go into those gaps. On Friday, guest lecturers was, were, who. in the auditorium spoke. You'll realize these are 7 and there are only 6 gaps, so one of them we won't need. So you have to put them in the right order. I suppose when this is ready online, you can just drag and drop the answers into the gaps. Again, if you want to guess, press pause and press play again when you're ready. If you're ready, here we go. This is the answer. The guest lecturers who spoke in the auditorium on Friday were amazing, and it was the word was that we didn't need. This is not going to be the only one. There will be several of those before you move on to part 2, which is write an email. That is also brand new. Has never been done in TOEFL that you got to write an email. In this email, you'll be presented with a scenario, a situation, and you'll be given some writing prompts for the email. The writing prompts could describe a situation. Maybe you're supposed to make recommendations. Maybe you're supposed to ask questions or inquire about information. Could be that you need to write an invitation or suggest solutions to a problem, anything along those lines. So a scenario from where you start and some writing prompts, what you need to cover in your email. That is the new writing task 2 as of January 2026. The only thing that remains the same is write for an academic discussion. This is what we currently have as writing task 2. It's also kind of new because they started offering that as of 2023 before we had an independent writing task that was replaced with the current academic discussion writing task. So if you've been studying TOEFL and if you're familiar with the current academic discussion writing task, they will keep that. And this is how it works. You see a post, like a social media or university post of a professor, then you see 2 comments by 2 different students. Obviously, they will have opposing opinions, and then you gotta write your own response. So you have to take into consideration what the professor said. You have to relate to the comments of the other students, and then you have to present your own opinion together with a new aspect that hasn't been covered yet, sort of. That's the academic discussion writing task. And that's exactly what TOEFL writing will look like as of 2026. One section remains, that is speaking. Speaking is also brand new. Speaking will start with a listen and repeat section. That's quite interesting because TOEFL has never done that before. Other tests have, which is quite interesting, and we wonder where they got their idea from. But for TOEFL, that's a first. So what happens is that you will have to repeat sentences, and they will get longer and longer as you go. So it will be a very short sentence, the next one is a bit longer and a bit longer and a bit longer. They're not really random. For example, they could say, you will be trained as a tourist guide. Your trainer will give you the sentences you have to say as a tourist guide. Repeat after me. Yeah, they will create scenarios where you have to repeat after somebody who's training you to provide information, maybe as a tourist guide or maybe as a student tour guide on campus, or somebody providing security and safety instructions, or anything that lends itself to someone saying a sentence and you having to repeat it. All you do is you listen and repeat. So there could be sentences like, welcome to Fort Lauderdale, the Venice of the Americas. You can explore the waterways of the city or take a trip to the Everglades. We also offer day trips to Miami, Key West, and all the famous theme parks in Orlando. And so on. As you can see, the sentences will get longer and longer. There will be one sentence at a time. They will say the first sentence, They will only say it once. You have to repeat it. If you don't remember, well, that's exactly what they want to see. What you remember and what you say and how you compensate for the things you didn't quite get. And so there will be probably 5, 6, or 7 of those sentences, and that's part 1. After that, you move on to part 2, take an interview, also brand new. Now, this is supposed to feel like a real interview with a real person, even though it's not. Well, you will have the interview with a pre-recorded interviewer. And I suppose they haven't really told us that yet, but I suppose there will be a limited time to respond. So I'm pretty sure they will keep the peep, like speak after the peep, and then you hear a peep. But I assume they will give you sufficient time to answer the question. As of today, what we know is that there's supposed to be 4 questions. They're related to the interview topic. They will say, thank you for participating in this survey, or thank you for participating in this research project. In order to find out what students think or what people think about this, we have prepared 4 questions for you. Please answer the interviewer's questions, and then you just have to respond. The questions will expand from just factual information to maybe recounting your own experiences. You will certainly have to present your opinion and express why you support or oppose a certain idea. What I don't know yet, but we'll see as we get closer to 2026, is how good the AI is, how responsive it actually is. Because I don't know as of today what will happen if you say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Can you please repeat?" Would the AI repeat, the pre-recorded interview? Would they simply play the question again? Or would it be even more adaptive if you say, "I didn't understand the question. Can you please paraphrase the question for me?" Would it actually do it? That I can't tell you. We have to wait a little until closer to 2026 to find out more about this take an interview, new task. But that's what we know as of today. And of course, your answers will be recorded and assessed as before, and then they will calculate your score. Which brings me to the very last part of this video, the score. Also, the scoring system is going to change. If you're taking the TOEFL right now and until the end of 2025, you know that for each of the 4 parts, reading, listening, writing, speaking, you can get up to 30 points. And the maximum is 120 points. And you usually know what your university, your employer, or the organization, you taking a certification program with, whatever it is, you know what score they expect you to have. They say, we need you to have an 80, a 90, 100, whatever it is. So that's going to change. For the first couple of months, I suppose they're going to keep the old score in addition to the new score range. But the old score will disappear over time, and TOEFL will switch completely to a score band ranging from 1 through 6, as you can see here. They're doing this to align better with the CEFR, the Common European Framework, for reference, that is often used A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. And you can see from this chart here how that compares. They have also published this overview for in detail scores and how they are calculated. So this is what we know as of today. And go to that website that I showed you. This is where you can find sample tests or the overview if you want to know more about the new version of the TOEFL to come. Independent of which version you take, the old one or the new one, if you want to be ready, prepare, practice, and then you will succeed. I've helped hundreds of students to take their TOEFL and to get a score that was within the range that they needed to have to improve over time. So if you don't want to do this on your own, if you're looking for a TOEFL coach, let me know and I'll be happy to work with you. Once again, here are the websites where you can find the information, ets.org, and the long link for the PDF, the overview that is available for download right now. Want to work with me as a trainer? You can find me online, Renate Urban, or my business name, Urban Training and Services. Visit my website or connect with me on LinkedIn. This is what we know about the new TOEFL as of 2026 for now. And if there's anything else available other than what I presented today, then I'll publish another video. But for everybody in 2025, towards the end of the year, who needs to take the TOEFL and who could possibly push it into 2026, that's very important to know how it's going to change and for you to decide which version is best for you. Thank you for watching. And if you like my channel, please subscribe and come back for more. There'll be frequent uploads on a regular basis. Thank you and have a great day. Bye.